Howdy, y'all. Welcome to the Rainbow Crossing podcast, a podcast where Gen X and Gen Z discuss life's challenges and how we face them as queer people. We have these open conversations to foster a sense of community through different perspectives. My name is Julio Guzman, and you are?
Daniel.
Hey, Daniel.
Hey, Julio.
How you doing?
I'm good. It was such a nice week. Something was really different about this week, and there was just so much peace at home this week.
Was it because I was gone all week?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
You didn't miss me? I feel like every time I came home, you were like crying. And I was like, Daniel,
yeah, because I saw you pull up and I was like, oh, God, here he is again.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's why you were crying. Got it. Heard.
You know, it's always nice to have alone time,
sure.
have the house to
I
yourself.
I say this all the time.
Mm-hmm. But it's also nice to have my roommate, my friend.
Yeah. I did miss you.
Yeah.
I was
same.
gone all week, obviously taking care of a pup. And then today was super busy.
Yeah.
Had work in the morning. I still worked out. I took care of the pups, cleaned after their place before the owners came back home.
Yeah.
And then I had a friend's B-day gathering before this. And now I'm here.
Yeah. So
it's been nonstop.
And I know you're ready for today's topic. Mm-hmm. But before we dive into it, I wanted to share... We got a little email message.
Okay.
This is from Eric in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Dear Daniel and Julio, my two new gay idols.
Okay.
Wow.
That's very flattering.
It is flattering. I just discovered Rainbow Crossing and I'm loving it. Have listened to 5 podcasts thus far. I'm 58 and just openly came out to friends and family. Your candid discussions are truly a blessing and helping me maneuver better through my new gay dating culture and identity. I find it tough at times to assert my strong preferences with dating and ultimately finding my person. For example, I make it clear on dating profiles that I don't share nudes online and don't do hookups. I'm looking for dates, then a relationship. If it includes intimacy along the way, all the better, but not at first. Many guys block or ghost me when they realize I don't, quote unquote, play their games. It's often frustrating. Any advice? Much appreciated, Eric.
That's a lot. And it happens to a lot of us. And it's actually a very common thing for people in the gay community to hook up first or do sexual things before they actually progress into something romantic.
It's a very cart before the horse mentality. And it's almost like you got to try out the merchandise and then maybe I'll buy into it. But it's something that I think as we get older, we do want to put the horse in front of the cart as it should be. Sure. That's how my mentality is now.
My questions are like, are you searching on Grindr? Are you on Tinder? There's places you can try. I feel maybe in person out somewhere where there's gay events or anything, and maybe just float towards those areas.
It's got to be challenging at 58 to, you know, it sounds like he knew he was gay, but maybe didn't come out until that age. There has to be a certain set of challenges that come with that. And the avenue that you're going down to find dates, as you said, Grindr versus Tinder. I think Grindr is where we all kind of default to. But in my experience, if I'm looking for dates, I would go to Tinder versus Grindr. Yep. So that you're completely right. But I also think in person is always a better option. Definitely. If you can find it. He's from Williamsport, Pennsylvania. I'm not sure if that's a small town, if it's near a larger town.
Sounds tiny.
Yeah, when you're in that situation and you're newly out and you're, not of the age that a lot of people at the gay bars will be, there's a lot of challenges that's involved with that. So trying to foster a community, it's hard anyway. It's hard when you're in your 20s. Yep. It's hard when you're older.
I think it's just men in general. Like you gotta find someone with the right mindset that is willing to progress in the way you want it to. I understand the whole nude thing, but for the younger crowd, nudes are very common. It's a very it's a very popular thing for it to just be that way.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about elections today. I can't wait to see elections in like 20 years. How many nudes of future elected officials honestly, are going to be there?
I'm not going to speak for everybody, but it is very popular. I mean, I was in like junior high and all my friends were sending nudes. I was sending nudes. Like it was just a very popular thing to do to the person that you were attracted to, obviously. Yeah. And it just became normal in a way. And
Right. It is
by that point, it is going to be a very even more normal thing where it's going to be like, here are my nudes.
Right.
It is. We've all seen them.
Enjoy. With your generation, it has become normalized because of cell phones and the ease in which you can take them. In my day, like we didn't have cell phones. Like you didn't even have digital cameras. Like you would have to have taken the photos and then taken them to get developed.
Yeah.
Which if someone saw a 15-year-old nude, they were going to report that and you were going to be in serious trouble. So anyway, to this gentleman, Eric, what he's looking for, my thought is, don't compromise what you're looking for. Like we have all gone through, I've been ghosted multiple times. I'm sure you've been ghosted multiple times. We've been blocked after having conversations online.
Sure. I'm a very direct person. And when people don't like what I say, they're like, bye. And I'm like, that's fine. I'm just calling you out on what it is.
I think what is happening for Eric and what happens for us, for all of us, is that people are weeding themselves out for us. The people who we don't want to connect with anyway are just seeing themselves out.
Yeah.
Which, great. Now we don't have to deal with them. It's just frustrating when you're along the way because you're trying to find a genuine connection and you're seeing that a lot of people, their values, what they're looking for isn't on the same page as you. So it can be really disheartening. But in my mind, it's just like, okay, it's one less person I have to worry about. Yeah. They weren't going to be the right one anyway.
Facts.
So
I think still go at it. Still go at it. Like finding love, that's always going to be around and it's always going to be something. But also in those moments where you are maybe feeling like you need someone's attention or you're really looking for a date or something, go on a date with yourself. Go on an adventure with yourself. Find something out about yourself that you didn't know, and maybe pick up a different hobby that's going to distract you from those moments, and then maybe someone will come along in those places of hobbies.
Yeah, and it sounds like Eric is really starting to come into his own skin, which is what a wonderful feeling at any age to be comfortable with who you are and to share your truth with other people. So it is the time to like date yourself. It sounds like he's just at the point where he's really getting to know who he is. And you always have to put that first and foremost, or a relationship isn't going to work anyway. I think that when you do that, when you have discovered who you are and you have a sense of confidence about you, there's this aura of almost power that you carry once you are secure in who you are and you're living your truth. 100%. And you attract people who are in the same boat. Like it is an attractive quality to know who you are, to love who you are, to be comfortable on your own if you have to be on your own, but knowing that you've got a lot of love to give. So I think Eric should just keep going down the path that he's going and really, really just lean into finding who he is and loving himself.
Totally agree. Yeah. And we love you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So you have us.
Yeah. In other gay news, did you hear about Sven, the gay penguin?
No. Aren't a lot of penguins gay?
There are, I think, percentage-wise, more than usual. So Sven and his partner Magic were the two gay penguins in Sydney, Australia, at the aquarium there. And Sven died this past week. And he was 12 years old, and he had been with his partner for years. They had noticed several years ago that the two were coupling up, and the people at the zoo gave them first a dummy egg to see how they would care for it, and they did. And then they gave them a real egg from another couple that had two. And then they cared for it, they incubated it, and then they did it again a couple of years later. So these two had been together for...
Even nature knows that it can be normal.
Right.
Hello, people. Wake up.
Right. So Sven died this week, and the people at the zoo allowed his partner to see him so he could understand what had happened.
I would literally cry the whole time.
I know. I'm
like getting emotional right now. You saying
I see it in your eyes, and I'm feeling the same way.
I like animals more than I like people. So
I mean, they deserve it a little more.
Yes.
So he saw Sven's body. Magic saw Sven's body, and he started singing a song. And then other penguins in their group there started singing as well. Bro. What a sad but touching moment at the same time.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot to take in, but it's so cute and touching.
Yeah. It's wonderful to see that, at least in penguin society, that two male penguins are celebrated, and
not penguins having more brain cells and more emotional intellect than us humans.
Yeah. Speaking of, I'm sure you saw also this past week at the Democratic National Convention, the man who has become easy fan favorite, is Tim Walz, and now his son Gus Walz, who had a very strong, visceral, emotional reaction to his father on the stage, mouthing "That's my dad" when his dad was up there.
It was so cute to watch.
It was. And talk about getting emotional. Like, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it, because he had 17 years old, had this raw reaction to his dad he's clearly loves,
yes,
and is so proud of.
Yes.
And the clips, of course, went viral on social media, and there was just this outpouring of love and respect from most people. Mm-hmm. However, there was another side of it, which ties into what we were talking about last week when we were talking about the qualities of a man,
yep,
what we think makes a man, and some of the toxic traditional traits that people look for in a man that really aren't very manly. And that's what we saw on the right-leaning side, being very derogatory towards
Definitely.
Gus, and posting some things. Ann Coulter is a good example, mm-hmm, who said something along the lines of talk about weird.
Yeah, she said, "This is weird."
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, the only thing that I can think of from this being weird is that we're actually seeing a man being proud of his father and emotional and just excited for him. And when do we see young boys being excited over their father?
Right.
That is weird. So
in the best possible way.
best way.
Yeah. And
that was the only thing weird about it.
Yeah. And it's really what we should all strive for. And I think the vast majority of comments and everything that I read online also agreed with that. And she got a lot of pushback and deleted that tweet.
She fucking should.
Yeah. But I think it really shows, it shows that the Walz family seems to be
very genuine.
Just a genuine, loving, family
oriented.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a reason
involved.
There's a reason that people are calling him America's dad right now. He exudes that.
That is one thing I am excited about.
Yeah,
but
we're almost there.
We'll keep going.
But I think it also really speaks to the fact that people are pushing back against bullies. Michelle Obama was very famous for saying, "When they go low, we go high." And I think we've just about had enough of that mentality. It's a great mentality, and I applaud her for wanting to go down that path. But we saw less of that at the DNC this past week, as even Michelle and Barack Obama were getting in little jabs towards Trump specifically. The days of we're just going to sit here and take it, I think, are finally gone, and we're going to stand up for ourselves and for people who are being bullied. People like Jules LeBron, who is also vastly celebrated the last couple of weeks for her very sweet and fun, demure comments. And there was a couple of people who came for her in TikTok. I don't know if you saw any of that, but people were very quick to jump to her defense. And the whole thing is that just because something comes into your mind doesn't mean you need to say it.
Facts.
We're at that point where we are defending people who are just being good people. Jules and Gus, like, they're just showing their true selves, which the vast majority of people are like, we really like who you are and what you're sharing and the energy that you're giving off. I think we're seeing that shift back towards that, and it's really pleasant to see. And I think the Walz family has had something to do with that. And the whole Kamala Harris running, I think, has excited people again to the point where they want to go in that direction.
So many people, for sure.
So today we're going to talk about
politics.
The upcoming election,
the
politics.
past couple months, what it's been like here in the States.
And I wanted to share, because I needed to go back and look at this, because so many things have happened in just the last 2 or 3 months.
And something happens, and then something bigger happens to where that's like not even talked about anymore.
Right, exactly. It's kind of snowballed to the point where...
But that's what happens in politics, right? When elections are coming up, all these things start happening every single year.
Yeah. But this is unprecedented. Mm-hmm. All of these things are unprecedented. So May 30th was when Trump was found guilty of 34 counts of falsifying business records.
Whoa!
Yes, and making him the first president ever to be convicted of a felony. Well deserved.
Yep.
June 27th was the presidential debate between Trump and Biden, which
was a mess.
It was a mess. It was really, I couldn't watch it all. I saw clips, but even those clips I couldn't sit through.
It was two elderly men fighting at the fucking buffet trying to figure out what they're having for lunch.
Yeah. Yeah, and
That's what it felt like.
there were no winners there,
No.
but Biden definitely came out on the bottom of that.
Oh, for sure. He didn't even know where he was.
Yeah. A few days later, July 1st, the Supreme Court ruled that former presidents are entitled to absolute immunity from prosecution for official acts.
Which everyone should be worried about. That should not be something because, hello, the former president just committed that many crimes.
Right.
And if that happens again, it's just supposed to be, oh, we're going to sweep it under the rug.
Right.
No.
Yes. July 13th, former President Trump is shot at in an apparent assassination attempt at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania.
Girl, the thoughts. The thoughts that I have for this.
Yes, I know. July 21st, President Biden withdraws from the election. And the same day, Vice President Kamala Harris announces her bid for the presidency. August 6th, a couple of weeks later, Tim Walz was announced as Harris's running mate. August 21st, which was this week, so about 1 month after Kamala announced her bid for the presidency, her campaign announced that they had raised over $500 million
Which is amazing.
1 month.
That happened. I've never seen anything happen like that before. It's
Right.
never happened before.
Right. Well, all of those things were just unprecedented. Yep. It's just insane that there was a felony conviction, an assassination attempt, a withdrawal from the presidency this close to the election, and then a historic fundraising opportunity. So many things happen. So upcoming dates include September 10th, which is on ABC News, the first debate between Trump and Harris, maybe the only debate between the two of them.
The only debate.
September 18th, a week later, the state of New York versus Donald Trump. The former president will be sentenced after being found guilty of those 34 counts. And then November 5th, of course, is the general election in the U.S. So we have a lot of big things coming ahead of us. I don't know if you remember when Obama ran for office.
Kind of.
You were young.
I was young. Wait, the first time or the second time?
The first time.
First time was 2012.
2008.
2008.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a kid, but I do remember because I was in elementary actually. No,
Sure.
And our school did our own vote, like
Sure.
who our president's going to be.
Yeah.
And for the most part, everyone voted Obama.
Yeah.
We were all happy.
His campaign slogan was hope.
Yeah, I remember that much. I remember so many key points from it. The speeches.
Yeah, absolutely. There was this energy, particularly within the Democratic Party and left-leaning people, that there was just this excitement that Obama would bring something different. And I think he did bring something different, maybe not to the degree that everyone hoped for, but there were a lot of things for our community, particularly marriage equality, that happened during his tenure of presidency.
Definitely.
And I think that a lot of people are feeling that same energy now with Kamala Harris that they certainly weren't feeling with Biden. We've seen her numbers increase to where she's within a couple of points of Trump now, even in states like ours, Texas, which is just unfathomable. Like it's hard to believe that we could ever turn Texas away from the Republican voting.
Well, it feels like we're on the way.
Yeah, it does.
It's been feeling like that, but the more and more it gets a little bit darker in blue than it does red.
Yeah,
which is
absolutely.
nice.
And I also have some Texas statistics. Our podcast goes out to a lot of people outside of Texas, but we do have a lot of people within the state. But I think this is a good example for people living in other places too. So Texas has a population of 30.5 million people. That's as of July 2023, so last year. As of March of this year, we had in Texas 17.9 million registered voters. So little more than half of the population of Texas is a registered voter. According to Pew Research, of the registered voters in Texas, 39% lean Republican, 40% lean Democrat, which, how is Texas not a Democratic state if we actually have more people? I think we're talking about registered voters and not necessarily people who are actually voting.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it boils down to. And then 21% are independents or not leaning one way or the other. So of the makeup of Republicans, 58% of them are in the 18 to 49 range. So Gen Z, millennials, and some Gen Xers. about 58% of registered Republicans in Texas. 59% of registered Texas Democrats are also within the 18 to 49 range, so about the same amount. Now, within those without any party affiliation within Texas, 70% fall into that 18 to 49 range, which to me says that, and maybe I'm extrapolating this more than what's there, but to me that says that there are a lot of people who are maybe feeling a little disaffected by both parties, and particularly your generation, they aren't necessarily ready to sign on to one party or the other.
I mean, I feel that way. That's exactly where my stance is. I've been blue most of my time that I've been able to be voting. Even growing up, I didn't even know that there was another party, or other parties. There's multiple parties. There's multiple people running.
Of course.
And I feel like we don't really look anywhere else, and we just get what's presented to us. And I think we, as people, need to do our research. We need to look at other candidates. We need to look at multiple different avenues of policies, of leadership. You should be talking about politics with your friends. Everyone, with your friends, with your family, everyone says, oh, we don't talk about politics. Oh, don't talk about politics here, this and that. No, it is literally our democracy. It is how the world runs. It is how our country runs. We should be talking about these things when it happens. We need to stop pushing it to the side and actually do our research and have these conversations with people.
It's hard because I was raised in a family that votes Republican.
I'm the only one from my family who's voted, and I'm the youngest one. And I tell my sisters register, and hopefully this year they do get to vote. Yeah, because it's just something that's not really, especially from migrant families.
I can't see it from your perspective exactly because I haven't lived what you've lived. But I would think it's easier to have that conversation about, hey, you're not even registered to vote. Go register to vote. It's your civic duty to do that. For me, the conversation is my parents voted Republican, and it's really because my dad says my mom is going to vote Republican.
Yeah.
And so they go down that path. My sister and I vote Democrat, at least traditionally have. And it's really hard, and I'm sure a lot of people who, particularly gay people who were raised in that conservative environment, feel this way as well. It's hard to have a conversation with someone who is voting for values that eat into your rights. That's a lot of their goal, is to do away with marriage equality, to push gay people back into the closet. And my parents, at least in theory, vote Republican because of their conservative Christian values. And I think really abortion is the main reason that they vote Republican. I have had this conversation with my mom because she's a little more open-minded about things. One of the other things that the Republican Party wants to do away with is the DACA program, which allows for children who were brought here from another country to continue to stay here, and they go through a process. I think it's every 2 years that they get renewed, their paperwork, but they continue to contribute as a citizen would. Yeah. But they don't get necessarily all the benefits of being a citizen. And one of my best friends is here on DACA, and I'm sure we both know a lot of people who are here on DACA who didn't have any say in the matter. They were children at the time, and my mom knows this person, this friend of mine, and adores this person. And my comment to her was, you're voting for something that would see this friend of mine removed from the country and sent to a place that he doesn't know anything about. He's heard stories, but he's never lived there before. And there's no response to that. And so it's really hard for a lot of us to have these conversations because you're just talking to the wall, essentially.
But the real conversations, you really get to see how someone works, how someone thinks, how someone feels about whatever it is. And most of the time, these feelings are coming from things that they don't know. And that's why these conversations need to happen. I mean, for example, I remember when Donald Trump ran in 2016 and he won. I was a senior in high school. And I remember him getting elected and me going to school the next day, like not feeling safe, not feeling happy.
Yeah.
The energy in that school was very toxic and chaotic. I was in a small country town, so we had all the boys going, Trump, I got blah, blah, this and that. And it was very annoying. So when they won, it was even more hype. And it was just like, it didn't feel safe for someone of POC or comfortable for someone of POC. After that election, I was like, I'm going to vote every single time. Like, I have to vote. And I wasn't old enough to vote at that time. It happened like right before my birthday. And when they won, I asked my sisters, did y'all vote? And they're like, no. And I'm like, why? I'm like, why aren't we voting? And then they were like, we don't agree with anything. We don't like any of the politicians. Like, we're getting spare change and the crumbs from this whole country. And like most migrant people coming to this country, it's very interesting because we are told this is land of the free. This is a place for opportunity. This is a place where you can achieve your dreams and get those things. And that's what I thought growing up as well. That's what I thought what my family came to America for. And as you get older, you're learning these things in school. They're telling you our history. That's a lot of it is just one-sided. And I would always be told, it's your vote. You can do whatever you want with. You can vote for whoever you want. Whoever's speaking to you, vote for them.
Yeah,
that's what it was. But that's not really how it is nowadays. In a lot of ways, especially for this specific election, if you have any different opinion that's not blue or red, people are saying you're wasting your vote. People are saying you are going to hurt us. You are going to do X, Y, and Z, and you are not contributing to society. You're making things worse. You're gonna help the other side win. And I'm like, well, it's my vote. I can do whatever I want with my vote. And if neither are presenting themselves what I want, why would I vote for them? They have to earn my vote. They have to tell me what they're saying, and I need to see policies. I need to see what you want for us and how you're going to get those things done. And if you're not presenting any of those things to me, why would I vote for you? And me saying I'm not going to vote for you, you can't assume that I'm going to vote for the other side either. Yep. And that's where a lot of people play into. And it's like, no, there's more options. I'm just keeping my options open and reading and trying to understand who is the best fit for who I want to be as president.
A vote is a personal decision. It's an individual decision. And I understand where you're coming from. I also understand people who are saying it's a wasted vote, but it is your vote at the end of the day, and it's our civic duty to vote. It's challenging when you have someone running like Trump because people see all of the damage that he could do if he was elected, and so a lot of people, when they're saying don't throw away your vote with a third party candidate, a Green Party candidate, I think the reason is out of fear that this man spews such vitriol. He's not running on building up America in any way. He's running on tearing groups down and placing power with a very singular group of people. And that rightfully so frightens a lot of people.
For sure.
When we see the damage that happened to a lot of people's rights by the appointees that he placed on the Supreme Court. And there are a couple of older right-leaning members of the Supreme Court now who could retire if Trump gets elected, and he could place in somebody who's 30 years old, and they could be there for 50 years.
And he says he's going to do that.
So it's frightening to a lot of people, the idea that Trump could get elected again, and they want to make sure that that does not happen under any circumstances.
I mean, that's still my number one priority. I don't want him to win.
Yeah.
But it takes me back to multiple different things. For example, let's go back a couple weeks. When Biden was still the nominee and the debate happened, people were freaking out. Yeah. People were like, this is what we're doing. This is what we're going to let run our country.
These two people. Yes.
Like, these are our options. And I remember so many people who have voted blue most of their life say, I don't know who I'm going to vote for, or I don't know what to do. Like, I'm feeling very lost. I'm feeling very disconnected. Most of them were like, I'm still going to vote blue. Like, we have to vote blue. And I'm like, the fact that everyone is so willing to vote for someone who no one's confident in is crazy in my mind. There's just frustration. There's frustration happening with a lot of people. And when that happens, why are we not looking at other options? Why are we just sticking to those two things? And I honestly started looking into Jill Stein at that point when I was like, what are we going to do? And this candidate has a lot of great qualities and has a lot of the same views as the Democratic Party. Like, we want the same things. The only thing different is that they just want the environment to be better. And her platform is literally people, planet, and peace. As to where all of the other two parties are more about power, money, capitalism. What can we do to be the leaders of the world? And that's not the vibe that I'm kind of going for. Like, true power comes from confidence in knowing you're powerful, not displaying it. And that's where I think America has a little bit of a problem, because they want to be the most powerful and they want to do this. But really, we need to be pushing more towards a place of peace than it is more of butting heads and running the game.
Yeah, and I think most people who are listening to this would agree with that. I think most people in general would agree with that. However, we are in arguably the most capitalistic country in the world, and money is what moves policy here. Money is what talks here. And in order for things to change, it would require corporations, the rich, to say, hey, we're going to do something that's for the good of the planet, the country, et cetera, the people. And they're not going to do that.
Well,
like
that-
the vast
that-
majority,
this is-
because of money is their end goal.
For sure. But that's what I'm trying to hopefully get this country to understand. America says it's the land of the free, the home of the brave. You get to do all the things that you want to do and pursue it, and there's a bunch of opportunity for you. That's not true. That's true for the rich and the small percentage of people that are white, because America's a country full of different ethnicities, different cultures, and it's everyone coming here for better opportunity. And we all kind of have the same mindset and goal of wanting to be a good place, and probably I still want America to be the best country in the world, but the way we're going about it isn't coming from a place of love. It's coming from a place of power. And I think once we can work with each other and get things going, I want this to be spread everywhere in the world when it comes to the energy that we're creating. I don't want other countries to hate us. Like during the DNC, Kamala mentioned, she described America as lethal and powerful, and China and Russia have nothing, blah, 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 against us. That just set me more off-putting. I don't want to be described as lethal and powerful and all that. Like, I want to be described as peaceful, as kind, as loving, as all of these good things, and that's not what it is.
You are an idealist. And I think that probably describes a lot of people your age, the Gen Z population. I don't want any Gen Z to ever give up their ideals. I want them to pursue them. But as you get older, I think a lot of people who were idealists when they were younger turn into more realists. And I
come from the realist of places.
I know, but that doesn't change your mentality.
It made me more optimistic. It made me more grateful for the life that I have now and the things that I have now, which I don't have much. Most of the things that I have and I'm blessed for come from you. Thank you. But a lot of the things that I have for myself have been worked from by myself and are achieved from by myself. But other than that, it's like, we do these things to progress, and we say we want to progress, but what are we progressing?
Well, again, to go back to what you were saying before, the talk of America being a powerhouse, a force to be reckoned with, comes from the fact that there are countries that are hostile towards us, and projecting a sense of strength is the route that we've always gone, because the minds that have run the country think that that's the way we have to, because if we say we want to play nice, will Russia play nice, or will they continue to do the things that they're going to do? That conversation isn't a pretty conversation, but is it just the reality of the world that we live in? And the question is, how do we change that without compromising the protection of all of the people here, all of its citizens? So it's a hard line to walk from having these idealistic views, but still understanding that the world, a lot of people, and people in power particularly, aren't great and don't have good intentions towards us. So how do we balance that out? And I think that's where Kamala is, and I think she's trying to walk a very tight line. Trump, on the other hand, he doesn't care about walking the tightrope. But Kamala, I think, is trying to walk this line with her, I want to say policies, but we haven't seen a lot of policies yet. But the energy that she's putting out.
Yes. Well, I'm a little conflicted. Like, I want to vote for Kamala. I want to. I really do. I'm not saying that and I still might. Who knows? A lot can happen from now to the election.
So much, yeah.
And my mindset is I want a candidate who's going to promote peace around the world. And so far, no ceasefire, no nothing has been presented. And I am a very huge advocate for a ceasefire.
And we're talking about Israel and
Palestine, correct. Yeah. I'm not picking a side. I'm basically saying I hate violence, and what's happening is a genocide, and it needs to be dealt with. We need to stop funding weapons to this country that is committing a genocide.
Yeah.
Justice, for sure. Let's find justice, but let's talk about justice. Yeah. Specifically for the people who are religious, what happened to loving your neighbor? It's literally your neighbor. Love them. Figure out how to come to peace with what is happening and try to get through it, because there's dead babies. Yeah. There's families being displaced and having to walk for miles and miles and miles. Bombings happening all the time. Like it's a very dark thing. So until my taxpayer money that I've been paying for isn't funding people's deaths and is actually funding the people of America, then you'll get my vote.
I think a lot of people are on the same page as you with that particular concern. And she did address that in her speech. And
in a very way that to me was kind of rude. To some. For example, there is this lawmaker from Georgia who is Palestine, and she was denied a speech, and then the undecided committee was also denied a speech, but we had Republicans talking, we had Israel supporters talking, so why are we giving the opportunity to other people but not specific people that are going through it in our nation?
Well, because it didn't match the positive vibes. The things are great, and we're going to keep things going great. But I was happy that she addressed it.
She did address it.
She did. I was actually really concerned when she started talking, because she seemed very pro-Israel only when she first started. But then she also went into the fact that the stuff that was happening to the Palestinian people is horrible, and kind of wiped my brow there, because I was like, I'm glad she at least said that.
When she started speaking about Israel, I was like, honey, what are you saying? Like you're sounding a little bit like a dictator if you're speaking towards all of that in the way that you were. But then she also started talking about Palestine, and then it chilled down a little bit for me. But it's just something. I mean, for example, a couple months ago it was like last month at her rally, there was some protesters from Palestine and asking her for a ceasefire at one of her rallies, and she just said, be quiet, I'm speaking. There's people mourning deaths of their culture, and then she threatened them like, are you gonna vote for the other side? Like, what? Just because they're offended by something and standing with something that is not aligned with how you're seeing the world doesn't mean that they're going to vote for the other side.
Yeah. I think Kamala and her team have made a lot of really smart decisions, and they should have prepped her better for something like that to happen, and to have given a response that was a little more caring, because that was the wrong response to give.
For sure.
The lack of empathy really stood out there. And I think that they've probably, of course, corrected that for her now moving forward, especially given the comments that she made at the DNC. But it is a challenge, and that whole debacle could cost her some votes. But I think the sentiment is still the same. Like, the other side will make things worse.
For sure.
And there's a fear that propels people to make the decisions that they make, particularly when they're voting. And I think both parties play into it. I think the right tends to do it. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. I think the left does it just as much as the right does. You can't vote for them or you're going to lose this. You can't vote for them or this is going to happen to you. And then they struggle to actually pass anything that will continue to make things better.
Yeah.
It feels like it's just this ongoing game to stay in power. And they play into people's fear because nobody on our side wants to see Trump elected. I think the majority of Americans don't want to see Trump elected again.
Totally agree.
And it's that fear that they are capitalizing on, perhaps correctly in a lot of instances. But let's also see some fundamental changes happen once you have the power that's there.
What I need from Kamala is literally, one, a platform with policies and what you're going to do, because it's still not up. And I get that You just got in this a couple months ago, and it might be a little rushed.
And can I say something to that? Because you and I've talked about that too. And I was doing some reading on that. And some people are theorizing, because I've said to you, I'm like, she just barely got into this, and they're doing a million things at once that most people take months, if not years, to prepare for. And so I was trying to give her the benefit of the doubt there. But I was reading some theorizing that the whole just Kamala Harris is a vibe platform is actually intentional, and that because it allows people to project onto her what they actually want from the party. So it's almost this mental trick that, oh my God, I love Kamala, I love Tim. They are bringing all of this energy of family and friendly and all of these things that I love. And so that means they must be for all of these things that I'm for. And so people are seeing this great energy that they're bringing, and they're thinking, oh, they're gonna do the things that I want them to do.
Yeah.
And without them saying what they're going to do.
I get it, but that's not enough for me. Like,
right. And I'm not saying it's enough for you, but I'm saying it is perhaps a strategy that they're using.
Sure. The whole brat thing, the whole coconut tree, capitalizing on all of that was very smart.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But that's all we've gotten. That's
I
all
mean, we've
gotten.
gotten a little tiny bit more.
Tiny bit. At the DNC, she talked about her life and how she came up, which I appreciated. I liked to know a little bit more about how she came up and who she is and the things she did to get to where she's at. Yeah. Totally get it. But when it comes to the world and what she's going to provide for us, she talked about how she wants to give to the working middle class way more, and that's her big focus. And I appreciate that. But
abortion rights have been discussed.
Slightly. We're still not getting any climate change policies of what's happening. We're not getting any border policies of what her take is on that, or a bunch of different things. I'm not seeing any policies or plans. We're just seeing little bits of pieces of things that are just going to catch the viewer's eye and be like, oh, that's enough. But even then, we're still missing big facts of what needs to be said for this world to work.
Yeah. I would imagine with a debate just a couple of weeks away that she has to come with policy decisions at that point. In Texas, early voting starts October 19th. I imagine that's probably the case for a lot of states that have early voting. And that's only, 5-ish weeks after this debate that happens on September 10th. So if she doesn't have some kind of like policy decisions at that point, it probably will confuse a lot of people. And I don't think it'll shift people over to Trump, but what it might do is cause people to say, I don't want to vote.
Correct. And that's what I don't want to happen. Yeah. I want people to vote. I want people to use their vote for whoever they see fit. There's more options out there. Like literally, even if you think your 1 vote or 2 vote for Jill Stein isn't going to work, which it most likely won't, we can accept that. It's still that thought process of I'm looking at multiple candidates. This is going to progress my mindset for the future. For next presidency, what if the Green Party is taken more seriously in the next presidential term? And if we start thinking that way now and being more open to different candidates, this presidency, number one, we just got to get Trump out. He can't run.
Yeah.
If Kamala's the pick, it's the pick. I'm planning on voting blue all the way down the ballot, but that president nominee, if they're not giving my ceasefire thoughts, if they're not giving me policies, you're not going to get my vote.
Yeah.
The presidents need to earn your vote. They need to tell you what they're going to give you for the American people. And if they're not doing that, and if they're not delivering for what you want, why are you going to give them your vote? Don't give them your vote. Find somebody who deserves your vote and who is going to want to provide you what you want.
Well, again, I think for a lot of people, it comes down to fear. And the people at the top are fear mongers. They are playing into people's fears. And Jill Stein, you talk about Jill Stein a lot.
I do.
And I appreciate. I personally.
She's literally been arrested for being in protests with the people.
Yeah.
What other president is doing that?
Yeah. I appreciate because you educate me on her, but the media isn't talking about her. A little bit of RFK has come up.
Because it all comes down to money. The media is getting paid to promote these 2 candidates, and it's not just those 2 candidates. There's way more candidates. I'm mentioning Jill Stein because that's who I'm leaning towards, but there are even more candidates than Jill Stein.
Sure. All of that speaks to a lot of the power dynamics that we have in this country, and the media does play a role in that. I don't think you're alone in wishing that there was more viable options than just the two parties. I think a lot of people feel that way. However, how do we get there? And it all starts with the conversation. So what we're doing right now is how you start that. But unfortunately,
research.
Yeah, but unfortunately, to have a viable third party candidate just requires a lot of money, and I don't know where that comes from exactly, but it all has to start grassroots level, and so it's a conversation and making sure that our elected officials are held accountable, and that they're actually listening to what we have to say.
Yeah. Until that point, I basically just want to say, one, register to vote.
Yes.
Options for that.
So vote.gov is where anyone, no matter what state you live in, go to vote.gov. You can select your state, and it will tell you exactly what you need to do, what the deadlines are for voting. In Texas, you have until October the 9th to register either by mail or in person. And then in Texas, October 19th is the early voting. This will air at the end of August. And people don't have a lot of time to register to vote. You've got just a little over a month, probably in most states, to register to vote. And also check your registration. Go to your local county government's website and just make sure that you are registered to vote and nothing has happened, because the last thing you want to do is show up, prepare to do your civic duty, and find out that for some reason that has been canceled out. So.
And if you're not excited to vote this term, still register to vote. Just get it out of the way, and even then, just look at more candidates.
Well,
do your research.
And if you're not excited about the presidential candidates, which I get why you might not be, although I think more people are excited now than they were 2 months ago.
Facts.
But there are a lot of other offices that are up for election that are important. All of the House of Representatives are up for re-election. A third of the Senate is up for re-election. These are all really important offices that we still need to vote on. Mm-hmm. So it's still important that you do your homework, that you register to vote, make sure you're registered to vote, and that you do vote. You don't even have to vote for president. You can skip that and vote for everybody else. But vote your conscience, vote your heart, and have the conversation with people.
Definitely. I totally agree. And hopefully we lean to a more green society in the future, because the planet's on fire and there's hurricanes everywhere, and we need more people like Jill Stein. And if you don't know who she has an amazing platform. Look it up before you drag me and saying I'm dumb and all these stupid things. Look her up. You would be way more interested in what she has to say than what we've been presented with by just pop stream culture from the left side and hate from the right. So that's all I have to say.
That's it, huh?
That's it.
Well, this was informative, and I really hope that everyone does their civic duty and recognizes the importance of...
We have the power. Stop being scared. We've been scared most of our lives. Nothing's changed. The same two parties have been running the game for the past 100 freaking years.
Yeah.
Let's switch it up. Anyways, love you, Daniel, and I love you, audience.
Love you too. Thank you for joining us. Please follow, like, comment, and we'll see you next week.
Yep. Bye.